Well, this is Baruch here, the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and what we're going to learn today is about the eyes of Ak, the development of the Olam HaNekudim. This is a makeup shear. I already did this shear once, but I messed up the video, and I'm making it again. But it gives me a chance to bring this over to us. There are 24 eyes here. 24 eyes, 3 eyelashes each. It's the number 72. Now, exactly how it fits in, and I'm just trying to understand it because there's so many things to see here. This sefer is a whole question of how do you find your way from the beginning to the end. There's so much to see. This is the sefer Rehovos Nahar from the Rishash HaKodesh. So just to give you an idea of that. And so let me get a little bit of a drink here and start off. So we're doing this again. And I am going to lift this up and hopefully get it so we can see it. Okay. So he says what we're going to be learning here is Yisboyer Inyan Shem Avaya B'tzir Da'ayni. In the form of the eyes. Now, I have to apologize that these shiurim are for people who really understand a little bit of sod or have the attendant taste for it. Helps if you're Sephardic, helps if you're Baal Tshuva, helps just generally speaking to open your eyes. So for whoever can access this, great stuff, this is the ARI HaKodesh. And then we're going to learn down below really here. He says, Mitzayer Tzuras Havaya Shel Shem Ben Arba Ozius B'tzir Einin. That's what I tried to show there. Now, exactly what it was doing there and how it works with here, I'm not sure. The Nekudim, so these are also dots. So V'gavosim, their eyebrows, Maleos Einim, are filled with eyes. V'yin Kol B'chinas Ayin, Hein Nekudim K'nizkar. So we're learning here about the secret of Olam HaNekudim. I'm going to put this up a little bit, make this go this way a little bit, and see if we can make the whole thing work out. Now he says, explaining over here in the light print for the Chaim or Hayotz Me'anayim, Shehu B'Bechin L'Shem Havaya, Miskala Afu B'Tzuras Einim. It's also revealed in the form of eyes, of B'Tzuras the Kudos, and also there are dots there. Because the eyes are related to the concept of Olam HaNekudim. Shemaramas the Inyan Zechav also Shom Shem Havaya B'Tzuras Einim, and they make the over there. There's a Havaya that they made in the form of eyes, the nekudos kazeh and dots like that. So he says, V'hine keshe nimdera bin Av. So if you start counting from the name Av, the name is 72, Yihiyeh kol b'chinas Av. So then all the aspects of Ad would be Yud min Havaya. So Yud min Havaya from the Havaya, and the Sag, the Havaya, the Yud would come with Av, and in Sag it would be the letter Hey Rishona min Havaya. Uma would be the letter Vav. Uben, that's Asma, would then be the letter Hey, Achrona. Now, Harav Nosem Kama Ramazan Sha'olam and Nekudim Hu B'Shem Sag. What he's trying to teach us is about the name Sag. V'yatzechem in Hanayim Da'ak, and they come out of the eyes of Ak. Yesh Kama Mini Cholukos V'Dargos V'Olobos V'Olam. There are different kinds of gradations in the world. V'Rovekulim Nechonim, and they're all correct. Kol echad v'bichinasa. So let's see how they're divided up. Chaluka Rishona, the first one. Kasher mechalkim as arba shevas havaya. So he wants to say that you could take the havaya, you could do a lot with it. And what's to say the name of havaya are these names, which we call this asmab. Keneged osir shem havaya, and you could pair the asmab with the name yudke vavke. Nimsa shem av hu keneged os yud the havaya. Sag, Shemimenu Yotza Oras Achap Be'anayim, comes out the Achap in the eyes. Hu Geneged Os Hey Rishona the Havaya. V'shem Mao hu keneged Oz Vav Dovaya. V'shem Ben hu keneged Oz He Achrona Dovaya. So if you count the name Sag just by itself, you call Atamim Shal Sag Oz Yud. And so therefore, it will be such a situation that the Tamim Shal Sag would be the Yud, the nekudot Oz He Rishona, v'chatagim Oz Vav, v'ozios Oz He Achrona. Now when he said there's going to be a Chalukah, there are different kinds of ways that you could take the Havaya and you could make it. Well, here he has one that he's talking about making an eye into eyes. Eyes have to do with nekudos, nekudim, the olam nekudim. Halukah base is a second differentiation. Ki gavarnis ba'la'el ki kol shem ma'ar b'shemos asmab, kolu af hu ma'ar b'shemos asmag. So there's an asmag to the av, and there's an asmag to the sag, and there's an asmag to the ma'an and the ben. You can also divide it up like this too. What we want to talk about now, we're talking about the creation of what is called the Olam and Nekudim, the hidden world of Nekudim. Because from this is where the lights of the Achab and the eyes come out. Now you take and you divide up the name Sag by itself. So you say there's tam in the sag, the kudas, tag, and noises. Nimsa bechinas tamim, okolelas es oras achap. Now the tamim really refers to the lights that come out of the oz and chotin and peh. He can negate the oz yud the havaya, so that would be the oz yud of the havaya the sag. The bechinas and the kudos, okolelas es oras anayim. So the nekudim, he calls it the kudos also. It has the lights that come out of the eye. He can negate Oz He Rishona the Havaya the Sag. A Bechinas Atagim he can negate Oz Vav the Havaya the Sag. A Bechinas Oros he can negate Oz He Achrona the Havaya the Sag. V'yotzalano, so it comes out like this. Mizesh B'shnei Chalukos and Iskaros. So the two different differentiations we're talking about. Yihya Oros and Naim can negate He Rishona the Havaya. That's what we want to say. The letter He of the Havayat has to do with the creation of this world that we're going to be learning about is Olam HaNekudim. So if you divide up the Kamim, boy, I lost the place a little bit here. I'm really sorry. Ba'ozen. Va'oz He Rishona B'chotim. So it would be like the Yud goes with the ear. The He goes Rishona with the Chotim. V'oz Vav B'peh. The peh goes with the mouth. Then that's the achap. V'hei achrona v'chanayim, and then finally goes with l'chachai ka'ayin yesh lo b'chinas hei rishona v'hei achrona. So it really comes out that the eye really has an aspect of two heys. Chalukah Gimel, he explains. Kashenechalak as b'chinas hatamim ma'atzma. So let's just look at the atz of the tamim by themselves. Which are the lights of the ears, Keneged Yudah Chavaya, Bekinas Atamim, Emtsoim, Shehem Oros HaChotim, Keneged He Rishona Zavaya, the Bekinas Atamim Betachtonim, Shehem Oros HaPeh, Keneged Oz Vav Davaya, Bekinas Nekudas, Shehem Oros HaYotzacham and Anayim. So the Yekudas that come are the lights that come out of the eyes, Keneged Oz Achrona Zavaya. Behind the tablos, there's tablos in the back, and you could see exactly how this works and how these chalukos, that is, in other words, you could take Yud, K, and Vav, K, you could make different kinds of combinations of, of partsufim are moving the lights, to understand the lights that we see. But says, Sod Masha Marno Batikunim, in Tikun Samach Daled, and he says, Ani Yeshana, Ani Shnia. Ani Shnia. I'm the second one. The second is to understand Keneged He Rishona. The He Rishona is the second letter of the Yud Ke Vav Ke. V'ani Yeshona, that's a little harder to understand. Keneged He Achrona refers to the second He. So not only is this Sag, but always going to explain it. B'tikunda Mivarach HaZoyer HaKodesh, Alapasa B'sim B'shir HaShirim, it says, Ani Yeshana V'libi Ar, or ear. Ani Yeshana, Ani Shnia. Then it says, I am sleeping, I am second. What's it talking about? It's talking about a sod. V'hu dashraf b'chida v'osios. It's a drasha where you switch the letters around. But it's really looking in different ways about one idea. Sometimes it's the second, sometimes it's sleeping. Now, second, I can understand. It's a mavora rab. Ani shnia keneged hey rishona. There's a hey. The hey rishona is after the yud. For who olam nekudim bebesel lukos of rishonas and nikroim shni shnia. Came at hey he shnia b'shem avaya, because the hey is the second letter in the name of avaya. Amalsha Omer ani yishona keneged hey achrona, where I say that, that's in the correspond to the final hey. And this actually is from a third chuluk. So what do you want to say, Lomer? Al oris anayim lashon ani yishona. So what does that mean? That's the yashin shina, sleeping. And the reason why is because this is where the break took place. Shehi mises zayim malkin kadmoim, which is the beginning, the death of the seven malachim that came first, the original seven malachim. Now, who are they? The Shina, he bebechinas mises. Sleep is an aspect of death. So let's go like this. Ki ha-chochma, hi achrona, because chochma was the last one. Ki he rishona, bihi shnia, the keser. That's from the eighth Chaim. Bihi shnia, ki noida, Shatamim hem keser. The tamim always go with keser, and the nekudot go with chochma. The chatagim go with what? With bina. The osias shevet tachtonis refers to the zat. For this, from keser to malchus. Let me move this up. We can not get mixed up. Hopefully, let me just raise this up a little bit. I don't want to lose the page like I did before. So haram b'vorakam od remez. He wants us to teach them other things about what these nekudos have to do with the eyes. It's possible to show you a way to divide up the Yud Kei Vav Kei, that to say that the Chalukah Shebechinas Nekudas will be corresponding to Chochmah. So how do you do this? Well, you take the tamim and keser, you do it like this. Tamim go with keser, v'nekudas b'chochma. Tagim go with bina. And then after bina, you get the seven tachtonos of the zat. V'yosa b'sheva tachtonos shehem chesed gevur teferes netzachod yisod, malchus. L'fi chalukah zu yotze she'oras ha'ayin nikrach nekudos em keneged chochma. That's why they call the eyes of the congregation, which is why. So he says, so he says that the Enia Eda, which he refers to the Chachomim, he said they made a mistake. We say this word ain, ayin. To try to tell you that the chochomim, which have chochma, have to do with the eyes. Aini ha'eda. Now this is a big idea. We're going to get this in Perek Gimel. This pasuk that says like this: Now what he said was, he said that there is a misa that's in front of it. That died. After the death of the malachim is a period which in the secret of Tohu Vo. Every time in Kabbalah, the letter He refers to Malchus, and Aretz, the bottom place, is Malchus. Every time you Adama, other thing maybe Tavel, always refers to Malchus. That's what happened. Which is really referring to the death of the seven Malachim, until the tikkun of them came along. And when that happened, then it is said, Yehi or Yehi or. What does Yehi or mean? Why does it say this twice? What does it mean? Bechinas and nekudos. Hem bebechines sheva malakim shem asher malchu be'eretz edem meso hamavur v'pasha v'yishlach. V'zecha mevura b'charichos l'cholom b'sharzeh. V'zecha v'tavin so the pasuk ha'aretz choisa tohu avohu. You understand now. You understand what tohu avohu means. V'aniska v'briyas ha'olam shezecha pasuk v'ramez al ha'aretz shehi olam nekudim shehi keneged he'achrona shehi b'bechinas ayin. Ba'ofen shenechlot shem havaya in this way. Yud goes with the ozen, with the ears of Ak. He rishona b'chotem. Vav goes with the pad of Ak, and the he achrona is the eye of Ak. Hu chaluka gimel. This is the third differentiation. Va'ofen zecha denemsa she'oras eranayim heim keneged malchus. In this way, we see that actually corresponds to malchus. Im techalak shem havaya b'chamesh partzufin kezen. And you divide it up into 5 different partzufin like this. Keser is the coats of the Yud. Then there's the Yud Atzma, it would be Chochma. Now these are all different kinds of ways to divide up and to make understandings of categories of what we're working with, of how the light is being processed. Yud Atzma is a B'Chochma. Hey Rishona B'Bina B'Vav B'Zah. V'Hei Achrona B'Malchus, the 5th Hey was in Malchus. V'Hi Nikras Eretz, and she is called Eretz. Eretz is Malchus, as I said before. And in this was the Shvira. And this Shvira was called the Olam Atohu. L'kach b'Rambas ha'kasev ha'aretz shebemalchus ha'herachrona choset tohu avohu would be tohu behind the Indian Shvira. V'hemshek ha'kasev hu yehi or v'yehi or v'roma v'zecha sheba eis ha'tikon, that the time for the tikon has come. V'zeh pasuk pilkeach einecho u'reishim b'moseno. Open up your eyes, once against the eyes, and you'll see your destruction, what has been destroyed. Let me lift this up just a little bit more there, being very careful. So he said, v'zeh pasuk, which we said, right? V'lohavin pasuk zechan devar mitzias ha'inyan. I gotta explain what's playing here. In the Omer ki hanekudos heim tesha. There are tesha nekudos, and he counts them. Shehem kometz, patak, tseri, segel, shva, cholim, hirig, shurig, kubutz. V'amlam yesh bechem gam kein bechinas elyono. Just like we saw in the Olam of Av, when we're dealing with Av, you have an aspect there where you have, or tamim, I guess it was tamim. Kein bechinas elyonim shechun nikuda cholim. So there's a dot up above the letters. Ve'emsach shurik, like in the shurik, it's in the middle. Everything else down below. Shemekomim tachas ha'osis. And now let me explain this. So Rav wrote to the Farish pasuk zechab al pi Taras hasod. V'kadei lahavin bira kosav. Maktiv Rav kamen become agdamos yisodius. So he brings in common different kinds of things. Da'aki bebechinas and nekudos yesh tesha mini nekudos. So we said he counted them up. The Rav counted them up. Asher called achaz bechem remez the sphera achaz. Each one of them refers to one particular sphera. So he explained it a little bit better. Both of the komos refers to this letter komos like that. This nikud refers to keser. The patach keneged chachma. The tzeri keneged bina. Segel keneged chesed, shva neged gevura, cholim keneged feris, hirik keneged netzach, shuruk, there's a shuruk there. He said that's actually the kubutz. It looked like a kubutz. Shuruk keneged hod, kibbutz, which is a kibbutz or kubutz, keneged yisod. Ana korim the zecha malafim, but what he says that we call it malafim. I think that's really probably from the Rav. Malchus ain't lo shum nekudot, but Malchus doesn't have a nekudot. Shahar rechabed list lam begrama klum. It's empty. V'inach Hashem sheniz boyer shebebechinas a tamim yesh tamim elyonim. Just like we said about the tamim, there are tamim elyonim, tamim emseim, tamim tachtonim. Came al zeh der zecha begam bebechinas a nekudos yesh nekudos elyonim shehi nekudos acholim shehi omedim at ma'al ha'osius v'chein nekuda emsois shehi nekuda chashuruk. Omer be'emsa ois. V'shar nekudos heim tachtonos, that's called the zad, the zayin tachtonos. Yoshikulim ondos tachas ha'oisius. Ve'inyan zera yizboyer, now we're going to get to this, l'cholom and Perek Gimel, Bezes Rishon Chalukas ha'orez b'shin koi makom aniku. So he says, V'hine, he does call Chasheva Achronas Heim Tzuras Yudin. Now what does he mean by that? All the zat is only, if you see the nekudim over there, we're going to look at that a little bit here, are only in the forms of yuds. What is yuds? Yuds, he's going to say they're dots. Chutz mishnei nekudus rishonas, which is the komets and the pater shehem base above them, because there are two vavs there. V'yud achas. Now the tiv is going to make it a little easier to read this. Hines v'hine tira shebeteshas and nekudus yesh sheva nekudus. There are 7 nekudos. Shetzerosam, so tzerosam he tzurs shel os yud, that has the form of a letter yud. Shahayvakasivasam or keves minikudas bodidos, because the way they're grafted together is in different dots, dot and separated dots. But we go nekudas a segel. So let's look at this dot, the segel, like this. Looks like there's 3 dots in a triangle. Shehi nichtav shlosh nekudas sheim shlosha yudin. So he says the dots have the value of a 10. The yud, he's saying, is also a dot. V'chein nekudas atzeri. Atzeri has 2 dots. Nechtav b'shtechem nekudas sheim shnei yudin. V'chein kulam al zilvaderech. Chutz mishnei nekudas rishonas komets apatach. Shachan nekudas akomets nechteves b'kav echod is written in 1 line. Shehu b'tzuras oz vav. V'nekudas achad shehi tzuras yud. V'nekudas apatach shehi nechtev b'kav achad bilvav. It doesn't have a dot, doesn't have a line, just a line. Bilvad shehu oz vav. V'ovish nekudas akomet v'apatach yachad. More keves b'shnei vavim v'yud achas. So you could say they come, actually, they count it up, comes to the gematria of 22. Now he has a whole thing he wants to build on this idea. And let's look at number kaf. So now count up the yudim shebesheva nekudas elu. It comes to the gematria of 13. It comes to the count of 13. The 13 of them. Ki min ha'ayim yatzach nekudas, but nekudas are related to the number 13. Well, how is that? V'nishara komets of patach, that relieves, besides that, that leaves over the komets in the patach, shehem yud v'shnei vavim, which is a yud and then 2 vavs. Shehem b'gematria kaf base, v'hein sof kaf base osius, which are considered 22 letters in Hebrew. That's what these are. Shehem na'asach ha'kelim, because the osius become the bottom, they're the malchusdika aspect, they become the kelim, shal nekudos. V'so the inyan hukach. When you start counting up all of the Yudin, Shebeshevas and Nekudas Tachtonos, Yalu the Misper Yud Gimel Yudin, it becomes out to the 13 Yudin, which is Tseri. There are 2 Tseris. One Segel is Shlosh. Shva has 2. The Cholam has 1. The Hirik has 1. Shurik Shlosh. Kubutz Achas. So Shlosh. Kibbutz achas, achas. So the kubbutz, I think he got those mixed up. It's supposed to be the shurach has 1, and the kubbutz has 3. V'yud gimel pamim yud. So it comes out to be this 13. Yud pamim yud. Heim begematria kal comes out. Where's a kal? And I mentioned in the original shir that kal, we have these phrases that Pashtanim work on the noshim daikim kalos. But over here, you see that kala is really going to be, he's going to show you that it's the gematria of the word ayin. So it is that the concept kal is something else really in Sod. The Horos, Shebeshevas and the Kudas Yansachem min ha'ayim said that the 7 Kudas, the Kudas that come out of the ayin. V'shar the Kudas, the comments of the Patach, sheyesh bechem yud acha v'shnei vavim, all in the minion kaf base. They come to the concept of the kelim. The remez al kaf base osis haTorah shehem kelim shal nekudas, which would be the kelim of the nekudos. That is, the letters, and this is a basic principle here. At the beginning of creation, are the vehicle by which the light enters and becomes a kli, and can transfer the light then further down into a more physical light, because every kli minimizes the light. The Ramas al Kaf base Osis Atelish Hema Klalim Shal Nekudos, which is the 12th page we was talking about, the general category of Nekudos. Kikan Ba'olam and Nekudim in the Asif Bechinis Akedim. Being Tomer, so if you say like this, Lama Nirshimo V'Nirmazor V'Kele B'Shnera Nekudos Rishona V'Ma'ul Shabalagolam. So he said, what he says, why we say that there's a reference over here to the Kalim with the Tudas of Rishonus, V'Ma'ul Shabakulam. See, normally when you think of Kalim, the Kalim are at the bottom. The light filters through their various different channels, ultimately winds up in the big Kli, which is Malchus, which is at the bottom. So therefore, why would these be referenced by the Kalim, which are at the bottom? The Chorda Kosher, if they Ma Kalim, so he said the Kosher is like this. Why do the Kalim, Shehim B'chusein Ma'oros Hazachim, which are less, they're Geruah, than the oros, which are more refined, which is alai. So there's kalim, which are types of light, but the light is less refined, and then there's light that's refined. It's making from a thicker light. It should be that the two, which are the toppest one, the top ones, which are the comments, which is for Kesser, and the Patach, which is for Chochmah, should get negative Kesser and Chochmah. So that's what they are. So he said, the Amyan Amnan. So we see, an Inyan is this. Ki me'elo habes nekudos, from these two nekudos, the nekudos Rishon shehem Kesser v'Chochmah shechal nekudos kanoida, which are the Kesser Chochmah nekudos, as is known. Mehem yatzach bekelam el kol hashar. They actually are the progenitor of all Kalim. They are the one that give birth to, and they're the ones that make the Kalim for the lower spheros. Now, this is important, and we have to see what he means. Bir Inyan, who so explained this Inyan is like this: Keeping the Kudas of Rishonah shall come at Zapatach. Hoibechem Tosefes Koach, they had an additional amount of strength. V'holid as called hakelim, to give birth to all of the kalim. Af avur hasheves spheres achronos, but because of the 7 final spheres, nimsa lefi zer shekol masha nirmazuchu b'kalim b'spheres of rishonos. So when we're talking about the first spheres, which is Kesser and Chochmah, the Kesser Chochmah, who rock them alayuso is only to tell you how tremendously powerful they are, and how high up they are. Below the griyusa, they're not to show you that they're low. Because the fact is the opposite. They're greater than everything. Because from them, all of the kalim come out. So I was saying in the original shir that there's a concept about chesed. Chesed is called the Yom Shekula. Each one of the 6 spheros is called like a Yom. So, and then there's Malchus, which is the 7th day. So sometimes they call it like that. But anyway, inside of Chesed is all the rest. Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, Yesod, and Malchus. All the rest are inside of that. And we're going to see that in this shir as we go further into Nekudim. Od Tam Acher, here's another reason. We know that the 7 lower Nekudos. Hey, Mesheva Malach de Misa, these are the 7 Malachim that died. But the Rishonim, the Rishonim, the Gar, that is the Kachav, they didn't die. But no, the Ki Bechinas and Misa, he Shuviras Akalim, the idea of breaking. If your body breaks, you die. The Shevan, the Kudas Achronas, Nishar below Bekalim. So therefore, the lower one are lights. It's like a neshama that has no body to go into. Rak or Levad, it's only light. So don't think those neshamas are lost. They're all out there. Maybe they don't have a body. Maybe they don't need to be out there. Not so close to us. But they remain with their kalim. And they are hidden. They reside inside of these kalim, but they wind up being called by the name of the kalim. In other words, the light of chesed is inside of chesed. But it's not chesed, the kli. It's chesed, the light that's in the side. Now there, shehem, that is the kalim, are the 22 letters of Ramazah, the Komets, and the Patach and Nizkar. So he says like this, and this is where we're going. He says, Od yesh the yashiv. So also there is really to try to settle this. Why should there be a reference to Kalim from the very highest of all of the sphere of the nekudim? This is where we find out that lights actually go into different kalim, not like in the olam akudim where there's only one kli and the lights are not moving around like this. This is actually the formation of kalim, separate kalim. In the first upper three spheres, they had big, strong kalim. They're able to handle the light of the Ein Sof that enters into them. But the lower 7 spheros, they had little kalim. They were weak. Now remember this light. This light is the light of nothingness. And if you're too close to it, you disappear. So therefore it has to be modified and tempered down by going through different aspects. But it has to have kalim that are strong enough to be able to hold the light, pass it on so that it's now a diminished light, and keep it going. So this is the problem that's going to develop later on. We'll see what that is. They didn't have the ability to bear this tremendous light. Now, once again, remind you that it's the light of the power of no physicality at all, nothing. So he said, Nishbru kilechem besod sheva malachim, so they broke shemesu, so they broke like the 7 malachim that died. Ki makus hamisa he shaviris akli, because really the form, the nature of death, is when the kli that holds the life force, which is the neshama, let's say, breaks. Shaharach neshama mistaleka b'shlemusa, the neshama leaves in its perfection. It means just like it came in, it leaves. It was perfect when it came in. It lived inside this, I guess, gave life to this body. And it's the body that breaks and dies. Also the same thing, as we're going to learn about the Shviras HaKelim. And only the Kli broke. The Nimsa the Fizeh says Shevach HaSefiras HaTachtonos, notes of the Nishbros that they were left over, and they broke. Their Kalim broke. The Nisha HaOr Bilti Kli, and the light was free, but it didn't have a place to perform. No Kli. V'hine ba'alma ha'or nikra al shem ha'kli. So he says, he wants to point this out. Remember that the eye, not to forget this. Normally we say, well, chesed. Chesed is talking about the kli. But inside of that kli is hidden its or. So we have to have them both in mind. There's a lot more to keep in mind, but those two. V'hine ba'alma ha'or nikra al shem ha'kli, shuch mislavish v'en elimbo. Through the kli, that's the whole idea. It's matus of the light. The misakin, to make a tikkun. We see this word used a lot of different places, even in the name of our little tikkun elevator kolo. Tikkun always means one thing. Mismayat or, limiting the light. That is how you make a tikkun. The light is too strong. Like looking at the sun, it will blind you. Well, this particular looking at this light or getting too close, it will eliminate you. And you're becoming nothing like that light too. But that is a part of us. Not to forget it. Mismayat or v'nitan shlamim, I don't know, shalim. Nikrach oros al shem ha'kelim shehem ha'kaf beis osius. So the lights take on the characteristic of the kli that they fit into. Ramazah b'shnei vavim v'yud achas shebenikud komet zapatoch. It's all represented by that. Of Ashara Seviras Atachtonis, which is called the Zat, the Zayin Tachtonos. Shekilechem Nishbro, there's Kalim Bro. Lord Nirbaza Bechem Inyan Akli, we haven't got, we just talk about the lights. Nimsa Shagam Defi Hatam Hasheni, so according to the second reason, Masha Niskro HaKalim B'shtei Spheros Elyonos, why the Kalim come out of those 2 highest spheros? Hula Maliusa, wants to say this is to tell you how high they really are. V'lo gloriusa, that they have a tremendous power within them. And this is where we stop. That's the shir today. And thank you for listening. Let me see how we stop it.